Eddie has gone back to her old
Sam Koshy team. We are back on the lap of the map for starters, and we have returned to my hometown of Whyalla. You can't miss us, really. We're in high vis today as we take a tour of the One Steelworks. Dad has made the journey too. He's going to give us a tour of the steelworks this morning. Anything you wanted to know about steel production and everything you didn't, we have that covered. We also have the weather covered. Some huge storms in southeast Queensland yesterday. Incredible. In Chinchilla, they had a hailstone 12 centimetres. That's beyond hail the size of golf balls and cricket balls. I think that's probably about softballs. And there are more storms on the way as well as Tropical Cyclone Nathan hitting Arnhem Land as we speak. So let's have a look at the forecast. Now, Dad has already warned that you cannot give a technical briefing on steel production in less than 10 minutes. So you might have to allocate a little bit more time
I am
in the
so
show.
looking forward to this.
We'll try and keep it as tight as possible.
It's going to be great.
Steel. I can't wait, Eddie.
Gee. and is he going to take us close to the furnaces?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Great. Can hardly wait.
Yeah.
All right.
Great story. What else is happening in Whyalla? Why don't you take us for a walk down the street and get a coffee?
It's beautiful.
To the steel town of Whyalla. Well, sort of north and west, aren't we, to get to Whyalla from here?
Well,
Southwest, really, probably.
From here?
Not really.
Very west.
I'm going to go and have a look at a map and come back to you. Let's just go to Whyalla.
You'll be forgiven for it because I have been all over the shop at the moment. But yeah, it's probably southwest-ish from where you are. We are in Whyalla. When we planned the lap of the map itinerary, this was always going to be a stop. This was where I was born. Have a look at this photo of Dad and I way back when in the latest 80s fashion, taken back in 1983. Lovely little shot of Dad and daughter. And here we are today. Good morning, Dad.
Morning, Edwina. How are you?
We had some great years here, didn't we?
Fantastic years. We arrived in January 81. We were here for 7.5 years, till middle 88. And as you well know, you were born at the local hospital.
The memories are vague. Look, everything I know about steel I learnt from this man. Most of it in the last 24 hours, to be entirely honest. Tell us, Dad, what are we about to see behind us?
Well, Whyalla makes 1.2 million tonnes of steel, and in the steel making process, you end up with some slag that you have to take from the steel making department, and you have to dump it and process it to recover metallics, which are then recycled back into the steel making process. So this morning we're going to see something that happens at least 26 times a day.
All right, I'm assured it's spectacular. Colin, if you could dump the slag for us. That sounds a bit rude, but apparently it's not. Get on the radio, Colin. Go for it, mate. Go for it. And at this time of the morning, when it's still dark, it apparently lights up the sky because it's still molten hot. Is that right, Dad?
It is. It's molten material that then, as I said, has to solidify.
Oh, there it goes.
You should see something spectacular.
Oh, there it is. Look at that.
Look at that slag.
Good slag.
There you go. We're going to see a lot of that molten material this morning, explain more of the steel process, of course, with Dad on hand for all advice and questions. Send them our way if you have any. But first, let's have a look at the weather. Thanks, Dad.
That's just the first step in many steps during the weather today. We will end up at 8:30 talking about export markets, hopefully, where our steel goes to.
If we're lucky.
All right, I'm sure we will be. Thank you, Eddie.
All right, let's get to weather now.
Back to the steel.
Eddie is surrounded by steel and we love it.
Oh, Sam, I think we'd all agree I really do blend in here at the One Steelworks here in Whyalla and my customised high vis. Here's where we are on the map today, Whyalla, my hometown, where I was born. About a 4-hour drive from Adelaide. We've picked the noisiest part of the steel mill to show you some technical terms, if you just give me a moment. We're just rolling some 180 mil angled channels here this morning. To give you that in layman's terms, Kat, come over here, Kat. What are you actually doing here? Because clearly I've got no idea.
Okay, so we're rolling 180 mil flange channels, and we put it through the hot saw.
What do they do? Where do they go? What are they used for?
This is structural steel that we use for construction all around Australia and overseas as well.
So basically, any construction site around Australia, this is probably where it might come from.
Yep, probably this is where our steel comes from.
The noise is coming from the hot saw. You can see over there all the noise, all the action. production, all the... I've run out of words because really I've got no idea.
Right, yeah, well, what they're doing is we put the steel through and we cut it to customer length. We make sure that all the specifications are all correct as per the orders.
Thank you, Kat. I really wish I'd listened to my dad over the last 31 years of lessons about the Australian steel industry. Cheers for filling us in on all those details. Let's have a look at the weather. I think I just discovered what the phrase "can't hear yourself think" really means. Back to you guys. We'll find a quieter spot in the next half an hour.
Okay, Eddie, thank you for that.
Now, 1.2 million tonnes of steel comes out of One Steel at Whyalla every year, and we can see exactly how Eddie is taking us there right now.
Oh, Barretts, we're watching Australian industry at work here at the One Steel Steelworks in the backbone, indeed. Duncan has worked here for 36 years. Duncan, what are we seeing behind us right now?
This is the extraction from the reheat furnace. So we're extracting product out of the furnace to roll into finished product.
How hot is it in there?
1270 degrees is our extraction temperature.
1250
to 1270 is our rolling aims, yeah.
So basically it comes out like really hot Play-Doh.
Yeah,
is that
correct.
Right?
Yep. So we form it into passes, roll it through, backwards and forwards, send it down the line further into the process.
Very, very cool. You know when you're a kid and you get to go to your dad's work and how fun it was to write on the whiteboard and whatnot? Well, that's how I feel today because my dad used to work here. Koshi, he's busy working on those export-import figures for you. We'll report back in the next half an hour.
Excellent.
But let's have a look at
Can you write on the whiteboard, please?
There was some wild weather in Queensland over the weekend. In Chinchilla, they had a hailstone 12 centimetre in size. That's a record for Queensland. It's just off the Australian record. So I'm not quite sure what that would be. It's not a golf ball, it's not a cricket ball, maybe a softball, maybe a little bit less than a basketball.
It's like a medicine. I reckon a medicine ball.
A medicine ball, maybe. A rock melon. Hailstones the size of rock melons in Chinchilla.
Thank God it's just not golf balls.
Oh, there it is. Is that the 12?
Yeah, it's about a baseball.
Oh, maybe not. Well,
I'll tell you what, no matter how big it is, it wouldn't last long in that furnace at 1250 degrees.
No, exactly right.
yeah. Can you please go and write on the whiteboard and just change their production numbers for the day?
The One Steelworks in Whyalla. It's Daddy-daughter day on the weather. I'm taking my dad to work and Dad's really taking me to his old work. So Dad, Koshi asked before, where does all the steel go from here?
Well, of the 1.2 million tonnes of steel that's made here, about 650,000 tonnes goes to Newcastle rolling mills belonging to One Steel.
Yeah.
About 350,000 is turned into beams, large beams, columns, angles, channels.
You can see
like
the beams
behind
us. Look, it's so hot. You can feel the temperature.
You can feel the heat.
It's quite incredible.
And there's about 60,000 tonnes of rails and steel sleepers. And of some of the structural steel ends up in New Zealand. So the more infrastructure development in Australia, power stations, roads, railway lines, ports, the better it is for structural steel from One Steel at Whyalla Works.
Like Whyalla. Okay. It actually doesn't go to places like China. That's where I thought most of it would go. Most of it's for domestic use, as Dad said, on New Zealand. Thank you, Dad, for keeping us up to date on those latest figures.
And you're doing very well on your steel making and rolling technology.
Thank you very much, Daddy. Let's have a look at the weather. Here's the latest map of Tropical Cyclone Nathan. It should be called the John Farnham of cyclones, really, because it keeps on coming back. It's passed over Arnhem Land as a Category 2 storm, but it's likely to re-intensify to a Category 3 storm and come right back again tomorrow. So we're keeping an eye on that across the next 24 hours. That's the same area that was hit by Tropical Cyclone Lam only 4 weeks ago. So there's some small communities, a small mining town of Nhulunbuy up there as well, mostly Arnhem Land and Elcho Island that have been affected by that. So yeah, as I said, keeping an eye across that, as we are keeping an eye across steel production here in Whyalla.
Excellent.
See you in half an hour.
Loving it, Eddie. Thank you.
Eddie does it all right around Australia. She's doing it in Whyalla today with all her friends at One Steel.
Yeah, Barretts, looks safe to say I know more about steel production now than when I arrived this morning. Also safe to say there's still a lot more to learn. Theans is the general manager here. Theans, we only saw a small section of it this morning, but what else is there? It's massive.
Yeah, so Eddie, what we've got is the plant is basically divided into 4 areas. At the back we see the iron making facility.
So that's kind of way back there?
That's at the back, and that's where we take the iron ore and we produce hot metal from it. Then the hot metal goes to the steel making, that's at the back here.
Right.
And we take the hot metal and we turn that into steel. and then into a solid form, these things that we can see here.
And that's kind of how we get to this stage here.
And that goes to
how many staff here?
So we've got 1,200 employees.
1,200.
And then we've got about another 400 contractors, so about 1,600 people on site.
And speaking of staff, Tracy, there's a big anniversary coming up for the Steelworks, isn't there?
Yes, we're having a 50-year celebration this year.
Oh, good stuff.
And we're having a family fun day for all past and present employees to come down on the 9th of May and celebrate the Steelworks 50th birthday.
Excellent. The Bartholomews will be here. We're coming, the whole family. It's going to be lots and lots of fun. Thank you so much, guys, for having us here this morning. Thanks, Dad, for all your expert information. Let's have a look at the weather. I know they say size doesn't matter, but you can't help feeling a little bit inferior about one's own tyres. We're back on the road with the lap of the map, guys. This is where we're off to this week. It doesn't make much sense, but I wanted to get to as many places as we could, the places that we missed. So we're off to the Flinders Ranges after this. We've got 2 days in Whyalla, then off to the Flinders Ranges. Then we're going to the giant galah in Kimber. Can't wait to say that a dozen times. And then off to Lake Gardner, where they have the speed racing on the Salt Lakes. I can't wait for that. I'm so looking forward to that. So it's going to be a great week. Tomorrow, still in Whyalla, we thought we'd have a day where everyone can come down in town. So we'll be down at the foreshore.
Great.
So if you're here in Whyalla, got relatives here, got friends, send them down. Grab a snag from the Royal Flying Doctors. It's going to be a lot of fun.
See, the Steelworks there is a great example of re-engineering your business, because you can't compete against the big Japanese steel mills and bolt. So they've specialised in this construction steel, and mainly for Australia and New Zealand. And it's really viable. It's great. Good story. So, yeah, it is a really good story.
Wake up.
Okay, it's interesting. There are 1,600 jobs there because of that re-engineering.
And they all drink milk.
Yeah.
Stupid cow.